I'm David Ainsworth, Head of Communications at the United Nations Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity. We're doing a Biodiversity Beat interview with Carlo Fadda here at Substa 26. Carlo is the Director of Research for Biodiversity for Food and Agriculture at the Alliance for Biodiversity of the CIAT. Carlo, welcome.
Thank you so much. My privilege.
So Carlo, the work that you're doing since we've adopted the biodiversity plan or the global biodiversity framework, it's been really helping farmers adopt nature positive production practices that combine conservation with ways of economic development and also helping with livelihoods. Tell us a little bit briefly about what you're doing to bring about this nature positive practices with farmers.
Yes, thank you. It's of course it's challenging because it challenges the current way agriculture is done. But first of all, I think that the global biodiversity framework properly addresses the entire food system, from the conservation to the consumption. And so even before the framework was adopted, we were engaging with the SAPSA, we were engaging we were in Montreal for the COP15. And we were really pushing to make sure that we could actually have a meaningful set of indicators to cover our work. And particularly, we are very much interested in 4 core indicators. One is Target 4, that speaks to the conservation of biodiversity, which includes domesticated species, local breeds, etc., because this is the core of our nature positive action. And if we don't have those resources conserved, we cannot ask farmers to use because they are nowhere to be found. Secondly is Target 7. We know that one of the main threats to biodiversity and the environment is the excessive use of harmful chemicals. So we want them to be reduced in changing management practices that would actually reduce the use of such pesticides, and fertilizer that goes in runoffs. And thirdly, we need to have more areas under sustainable management. So that's Target 10. And finally, we want, so when you bring all of these together, you have healthy food through the biodiversity, nutritious food, sustainable management, reduce of inputs, but then someone needs to consume. So the 4th core target is Target 16 on sustainable consumption, and we want all of these to be part of our core. We have other important areas of work, which includes gender, indigenous communities, indigenous people, but somehow what we promote technically is those set of 4 indicators. From the livelihood perspective, it's of course is important because we need to create markets and we need to link the farmers to the markets if we want this to be sustainable. So we need a lot of the work that we do is really trying to generate innovative private sector actors, but also we try to create linkage with the farmers and somehow also increase entrepreneurship in farming communities, because we think that farmers themselves are private sector actors, and if they grow, they can make a more meaningful impact on the marketing of this diverse set of basket of food.
So the other part of this too is, of course, the government. You've talked about, the art markets. So one of the aspects we have in our framework is dealing with these harmful subsidies. I understand that you're doing work that addresses this question of subsidies and the signals that are sent that way. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and so there are 2 dimensions into that. One dimension is that we normally where the subsidies goes, and there are a number of reports from a number of organizations that tell us that out of 700 billion public funds on subsidies on agriculture, 90 to 95% goes into harmful practices. And this push farmers to actually adopt those harmful practices. That's why the subsidies are there. So when we ask farmers to shift to agroecological practices, nature positive practices, this goes against farmers have options, and one option is take the subsidy and adopt harmful practices. And so what we need is for the government to actually support the transition towards sustainability, so that farmers can be further motivated to actually work on adopting those nature positive practices. Secondly is economic side, because as you know, when you want economy to grow and you want to stimulate the growth of private sector, you also need subsidies. You need to provide funds to emerging companies, maybe initially SMEs, etc., to be able to operate and to establish themselves. And we think that if you go from seed production to food transformation, etc., you need a different, you need new ways of working with those companies, because now we are looking at different products, different type of fruits, vegetables, cereals, legumes. So probably you need to adapt your system towards these agroecological settings and nature positive settings. So for those companies to emerge, they need funding, and we think that, of course, this could come from private investment, but I think also the governments have a big role to play in supporting the emergence of this innovative private sector.
Great, well thank you. So it's good to see this getting off the ground now as we head towards COP16. I'm looking forward to you and I speaking again at COP16, where we can talk again about how this has unrolled over the next few months and then what it's going to be like as we move forward. So let's meet again in Cali.
Thank you. We have a date in Cali, yeah? Thank you.
Exactly.